standing growth using the last 2 years as a springboard. And I think, for most people, they'll acknowledge that COVID has either done one of two things for their business. They've either gone through the roof, busy, out of control, or they've actually taken a direction left of field. So they might have gone quiet. And there are the odd few that it made no difference for. But I think really when we have big events like that, it's quite valuable to look at what's happened and see how we can actually make the most out of it. So joining me on the call today, I've got two experts. I've got Ryan Gray and Damien Lacey. Welcome to the call, guys.
G'day.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yeah, pleasure. So maybe we'll start with you, Ryan. You're at the top of the screen. What do you see as the springboard that we can take something like the last 2 years and actually utilize that in business?
Yeah, sure. So, look, for me, I guess getting outstanding results, especially springboarding off, a turbulent, let's say, last couple of years, is really about doing things differently, around looking at what we did, picking what worked, and then doing more of that, and ditching what didn't, and pressing forward into, and leaning into what does work. And for me, I guess, from a marketing perspective, putting in place things that are going to accelerate your growth now that there's all this opportunity, kind of post pandemic.
Yeah, and how do you respond to those people who are so busy as a result of the pandemic? So a lot of the construction trade, the building industry, they're going, don't talk to us right now. We've got more clients than we can deal with. How do you respond to that from a marketing perspective?
Yeah, sure. Look, I usually say, if you have too much business, then put your prices up because you can earn more while doing essentially the same amount of work working with better clients. So yeah, that's my usual advice.
Yeah, yeah, fantastic, fantastic. And Damien, you really work on the other side of the coin. You're very much about process and basically workflows. What's your thoughts in regard to using the last 2 years as a springboard?
Yeah, it's like I said at the start, it's been a mixed bag. Some customers have had the best trading period ever, and some have had not so great. Look, I think dealing with the first category, they've done well. I think though the growth has come along in a pretty sudden way, and so it hasn't necessarily been as profitable as they would have liked. There's been a lot of paddling underwater, if you like, to get the job done.
Yeah,
Um, which it's not a bad problem to have in some ways, but it really just reinforces the need to how do we get our processes right? How do we do this work well? How do we do it profitably?
mm,
Because there's no point just taking on revenue for the sake of it. So I think if you've got a good strong pipeline of work, if you're confident in what's coming down the road, then really double down on the way you work and make sure that when you do a job, you're getting the most out of it.
yeah, yeah.
And for the others who haven't had great trading terms, I think from talking to clients, it's just really focused. Been a wake up call,
Yep.
to recalibrate what it is they do and how they deliver. We found the same. We do consultancy training and transformation programs. Was a lot of it almost all on site, face to face. I never would have thought we would have been able to operate through through online tools.
Yeah.
And it's been a real now string added to the bow, if you like, for
Mhm.
future work.
Yeah, yeah. And look, I suppose, when change occurs, like the economy's gone through this massive shift, a lot of people are either taken along for the ride, so they're riding the wave, or they've been sort of smashed under the wave. Either way, this is a great opportunity for businesses who are in the right mindset. And the reason I got you two guys on the call is I know in business there's always two flywheels that need to turn. One is the ability to get new clients on board, and the other one is ability to deliver your service in a profitable way. So if we think about that and what's happened right now, I mean, it's interesting because Ryan said a very interesting comment at the start, which is if you've got too much work, raise your price. What about for those people who are now actually finding that there's not enough work or things are starting to die off? What's your thought process there?
Yeah, absolutely. So probably time to double down on marketing. So I mean, we sort of specialize in getting more people to say yes to your business in a compressed time frame.
Yeah.
And what we found is, for those who make a focused, concerted effort over an extended period of time, that the ones who get the business. They focus on it,
Mm.
and the results for them are amazing, because they have this endless opportunity. And I have noticed as well, like that even through the pandemic. So we said to all of our clients,
Mm.
please double down on your marketing, because a lot of your competitors are pulling out.
Yeah.
And we saw a lot of them do that, and they did really well for the most part. We didn't have any of those particular clients go out of business, which was phenomenal. The ones who cut marketing were the ones who ended up suffering. So yeah, it was very much a case of what you focus on, you get. So yeah, like if you really want that consistent front end growth, and by front end I mean like brand new sales,
Yeah.
then yeah, it's about focusing on the activities that are going to get that handled for you. Because once you have that money side handled, once you have
Mm.
the ability to turn the dial and get new clients,
Yeah.
then that's money handled for you. Sure, you might have marriage problems or health problems or that kind of thing, but at that point you haven't got money problems anymore. So yeah, that's but it takes a bit of focus and a bit of effort,
Yeah.
or at least to get someone to do that, whether it's within your business, or someone that you've brought in, like an agency. But yeah, like it's if you maintain that, and the key is consistency. It's
Yeah.
not hard, it's just consistent.
I like what you said before about compressed timeframes, because I think one of the things that people didn't realize is things like Zoom. They came along. They've been around for years. Teleconferencing, but it forced people to use a product that's been around for a long time. And what it did is allowed people to see more people in a shorter period of time. So we started compressing timeframes of logistics and travel. And I think even in service delivery, Damien just touched on it there. We're a consulting firm. We deliver our service by consulting, and by actually doing it remotely, it's changed the game, because now it's not about how many hours you're on site. It's about how
Mm.
productive you are in the time that you are connected with people. So really, I think if we were going to try and give some recommendations or some advice, we've sort of come out. We're almost out the other end of this drama within the economy. We're about to hit superinflation. There's a lot of fear in the marketplace about what's going on. What's your advice to people who are sort of trying to take those lessons of the last 2 years and use that to move forward? Maybe I'll start with Damien on this one.
Yeah, in terms of dealing with the inflationary aspects of what's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's a broad topic there, I suppose, but I mean I think I just sort of reinforce what Ryan said around process and consistency.
Yeah.
There's no point just taking on work for the sake of it, and
Mm.
you really want to make sure that you're executing well. Um, yeah, and I get it. You've got a big influx of work potentially,
Yeah.
and you've got material issues and you've got staffing issues, and there's more than one thing to do at one time, right?
Yeah.
And you can't fix everything. However, if you want to get out of that, Groundhog Day cycle,
Yes.
and it's all about focus and consistency. So we know there's 10 things we want to do to get to make things work better. Let's just pick one and work on it in a steady fashion
Yes.
over the next month, the next 2 months, next 3 months.
Mm.
Because if you don't, right, and you just keep on churning through the work and
Mhm.
doing it the same old way you've done, you are paying for that through. It's sort of like an efficiency tax or an inefficiency tax. The rework, the double checking, the mistakes,
Yeah.
um, the incorrect deliveries. You'll be paying for it through those sorts of things.
Mm.
Anyway, so take charge and do it in a focused way,
Yeah.
and chip away at it over a period of time.
Well, there's an interesting thing that's occurring now where wages are starting to increase in sort of almost in tandem with the inflation scenario. So the expectation of the employee now is that I'm worth more money, and there's a shortage of good workers. And I think what you're talking about here is, a smart business owner is constantly incrementally looking for ways to improve profitability, which means that,
Mm,
I'm happy to pay more wages, but I do expect to see more productivity. But I don't
mm,
just
mm,
expect people to work harder. I think they need to work smarter, right?
mm.
So, an old mentor of mine used to say, in business, there's no standing still. You're either growing or you're dying. And I feel like if you have a year that you look like you just did the same as last year, then chances are you're slipping backwards pretty much big time.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, if you've got the sense in your operation that things are a little bit hectic, they're a little bit, out of control, there's no one reason why, chances are you're not as efficient, as effective as you could be. And it takes, some, peace of mind, or some perspective to really try and break
Yeah,
that cycle. But it's what will get you to higher levels of productivity.
fantastic. There's an old saying, good business is boring, right? And sometimes people, and especially like the last 2 years have been quite dramatic, right? There's been a lot of fear, there's been a lot of media hype, all sorts of things. And I think human nature is we do get excited by drama. I used to work at Channel 7 in one of my previous jobs, and I was curious because I was talking to the chief of staff in the news department, and I said, why is it that always every news sort of every news story is always dramatic. It's always about drama and negative things and all these things. He said, David, we don't get to choose what's on the news. You do, right? Because you vote with your feet. So if it's dramatic, people are attracted to it. So that gets us ratings. And I started to realize, humans by their very nature are attracted to drama. Even though we say we're not, it has some level of attraction to us in a marketing perspective, Ryan, because this is really an oxymoron to me, right? Marketing is about getting people's attention. Getting people's attention is about scarcity and drama. But we're also talking about compressing sales timeframes and making sure we're systematic in our approach. What's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, it's a fine line. It's a delicate balance between having a healthy level of drama and interest,
Yeah.
and absolutely scaring the pants off people. So, yeah, look, it's good, and as long as I guess we're not kind of pandering to that deep fear and that
Mm,
sort of thing. It's which can be unhealthy.
yeah.
I definitely think there's scope to to really connect with people
Mhm.
and connect with them where they're at in terms of understanding their problems.
Yeah.
And I mean, like there's even a saying, the person who wins the sale is the one who can articulate their customer's problem better than anyone else.
Yeah. Right.
And I think that is an amazing point of leverage that most businesses could actually use in terms of
Yeah.
I guess some advice if I was to give anyway for sure. Yeah, like it's
Yeah.
yeah.
I think what you touched on, this shortening of the sales cycle, we have these tools available to us now with video and with live streaming where we can communicate messages in a timely manner. So, you can deal with people's issues or people's fears almost spontaneously through your sales process. So rather than waiting to see them, you can actually stream them to them or email them these things. Do you feel like when we talk about compressing timeframes on sales cycles, what are the elements that we need to really focus in on to do that?
Yeah, sure. So I have a saying. We have a saying in the office that's make time your friend.
Mm,
So it's about investing in things that are going to pay off long term.
yeah.
So create the content, create the videos. Show like record your best sales calls and
Mm,
and show them to your staff.
yeah.
But a year from now is going to happen, right? Like we're,
Yeah.
we're all going to turn up a year from now. So if the real question is, what state are we all going to turn up a year from now? So are we going to spend this next year investing and building the content and creating the email sequences and those kinds of things that are going to produce additional relationship with our clients
Hmm.
that are going to compress the timeframes, that are going to drive that relationship?
Yeah.
Or are we just going to dabble? Are we going to maybe run some ads? Are we going to just do some basic stuff that may or may not pay off? Like are we thinking about this more strategically, or are we looking at it from a perspective that's very short term,
Mm,
or are we looking at it much more longer term in terms of setting up systems and
mm.
doing some of the harder yards now?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a
Yeah,
mentor of mine once said to me, a quick fix is neither.
yeah, yes, it's very true.
And it was such an interesting thought process. It was like everyone's looking for the quick fix. Everyone's looking for the quick fix. And if a quick fix is neither, what are we looking for? Well, what we really need is sustainable systems that consistently improve our performance. And this is why this is such a fascinating topic, because we've got two people talking from two ends of the business, right? We've got the front end, which is the sales process, which if we shorten it, it saves us money because sales is a cost. And then we've got the delivery mechanism where Damien's talking about, the inefficiencies. And if we can just save time on delivery by looking at, the how we deliver our service and how can we do it better, we can actually improve that profitability. And the old saying is, revenue is a vanity metric in business. It's not about turnover; it's about leftover. And this margin really is the difference between shortening a sales cycle, improving a delivery mechanism, and just making sure there's money left in the bank. What's your thoughts on this idea, Damien?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. You talked about drama
Mm.
heat and noise. It's in the that's in the media cycle, but it also very much exists in the in the operation of the business, in the four walls of the business. And you do see people who buy into that,
Yeah,
firefighting, put on the superhero's cape, run to one problem to the next, and they actually thrive on it.
yeah,
Um, but it's a lot of effort to fix problems again and again and again, and it might feel like you're making progress. You're actually just putting a lot of work into repeat band-aids for issues. um, and it really does. And having worked with a bunch of clients, and directly and anecdotally, it's the ones that get success are those that just refuse to take part in that daily drama. We've got 5 customer orders; they need to all be out tomorrow, and we've got to run here and fix it. All right, but the ones that really do succeed, they refuse to take part in that and say, listen, our processes are not capable right now. We need to be mature about what we can achieve in the next week. If we have to ring 3 people up and tell them, look, a more reliable date will be, X, it's better to do that, plan it, agree on it, and then work on getting our act together, and being, firm in saying, I refuse to live in this chaos, right?
mm,
It's crazy. We're actually going to clean up, or we're going to get clear on, hang on, what are we doing? What's our plan for the week? What's the demand that we have to fulfill, and what's our realistic capacity? And
mm,
then planning out something logical and reliable, instead of just rolling from one day to the next. So it's the real hallmark of success to have, as an operations lead or a business leader, say, no, I'm not going to take part in this drama
mm.
and have the requirement to run from one fire to the next. I'm actually going to do this in a measured way. And you can't fix everything,
Yeah.
but you've got to break out of that cycle.
Yeah, isn't it really about, we talk about working on the business, and the business owner's job is to fix problems, but we do get
Mm.
trapped into the firefighting, and I think there's an adrenaline component where people go, oh my god, there's so many problems, I need to solve this. Nothing gets done unless I get involved.
Yeah, yeah, but
That's alluring, isn't it?
it is, and they get, some people thrive on it, and they get to a certain level.
Yeah.
If you want to get beyond the level of your own personal capacity to
Yes.
command and control activity,
Uh-huh.
you're going to now need to start to get out of that and let a good process do the work for you.
Yeah.
And that's a key tipping point. And it's, you see it from businesses who start from scratch. They get up to, it depends, 5 million, 10 million, 20 million. But to grow beyond that point, you need, to get systems and processes working for you, instead of your own personal, uh, blood, sweat, and tears.
Wasn't it Einstein that said that you can't use the same thinking that created the problem to solve the problem?
That's it. The skill set is different from
Yeah.
0 to 10 million to 10 million to, say, 50.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah,
Ryan, what are your
and
thoughts?
like yeah, it's actually the same in marketing. Like
Yeah.
it comes back to the process doing the heavy lifting,
Mm.
because if it's a person, if it's like there's always a bottleneck somewhere, and if you can solve that with a process, then that's substantially better than just either A, throwing money at it, which often escalates a problem if it already exists,
Yes.
but B, if it is a person in the marketing bottleneck, then yeah, putting that process in place will often alleviate that. And yeah, it's once that's kind of sorted, there's a level of freedom then to focus on more of the things that the business owner or CEO enjoys.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting because I think we talk about businesses in chaos, And when we try and grow a business in chaos, we actually grow the chaos. And
Mm.
when we grow the chaos, if we're the only person that can solve the problems, we're actually making our job harder, not easier. So it's sometimes like you can't grow the business until you systemize not only getting clients in, but also delivering the product out. And so all of a sudden, the business owner's job moves from being traffic controller to actually strategy developer and implementer, which is actually getting these ideas and saying, let's systemize what we do, or let's find the right people to run that, as opposed to, oh, this drama, it's so exciting. I come to work every day and I've just got so many things to do. That wears thin, and I think people run out of the energy they need to drive that.
Yeah, and the other thing I find that a lot of business owners will, consciously, or they'll be cognizant of this. They know this, right? They know they need to get more systematic. They need to be more process driven.
Yeah.
But again, they think, well, that's just another thing on my list that I have to do, and I don't have enough time. And I'm surprised, or not surprised, but it's quite common that you get the comment from business owners that, wow, I didn't know that there was this kind of help available. I didn't know that there were resources to draw on to help with exactly this kind of stuff. I thought that was always going to be my own job. So there's help available.
Yeah, I think there is, and the endemic problem is that most people are in a business where they're highly skilled. It's almost like that's the self-limiting belief, is that I'm highly skilled, that's why I'm in this business. And sometimes it would be better if they didn't know anything at all about the product or service, because then they couldn't actually roll up their sleeves and get stuck in doing work. So this whole idea of beckoning, because time keeps coming up, right? I don't have enough time to work on my business. Well, that's because you're stuck working in it. And literally, while you're shoveling coal into the furnace, who's guiding the direction of the ship? And I think part of the dilemma is the forced difference between working in and working on, and saying, well, I don't need to know how to create a system. I don't need to know how to market. I need to know there's people out there that I need to speak to and actually understand whether they can help me or not. And I think even just that initial process of just recognizing that I can't fix the problem, but someone out there can, is the first step to actually getting out of that dilemma.
That's right. And, it doesn't have to be, I mean, obviously there's vested interest in the call today in terms of people participating, but, it doesn't even have to be a service provider. It could be, I'm going to go out and get that skill set and bring them into my team,
right?
And nurture them if that's the best solution for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I did hear or read somewhere that it's like, if you think it's expensive to hire a professional, wait until you hire an amateur.
I had this conversation with someone yesterday. We were talking about, I just want the marketing company that can produce high quality leads for me. Can't you just point me in the right direction? And I said, that's the starting point of failure right there. Right?
Yeah.
You need to learn. Yeah. You need to learn how to find the right people. You need to learn how to monitor and measure those, because I think one of the best kept secrets of building a successful business is finding and keeping the right people. That's not only employees; it's also contractors. It's anyone, and customers, right? It's anyone that's connected to your business model. If you've got the wrong people in play, then there's no easy path to growth. Right? You need to find and you need to keep the right people, and it's a skill set that most business owners don't have unless they're in recruitment. They don't actually know how to find and keep good people. Now, recruiting a contractor to do a piece of work like you just described, Damien, is exactly the same process, right? How do I know if these guys can help me with building this system? Well, you need to work it out by having the interview, having the conversation, seeing what they've got, working out how to reduce the risk, and working out whether they can or can't help you.
And then you still don't know, right? And then you have to hire them and try them, and then figure out, wow, that didn't work. And you might have to go to 3 or 4 cycles before you actually land on the person.
Funny, because often in seminars I'll ask the question, about failure. Is failure good or bad? And everyone says failure is good as long as you learn from it. But the next question is where I get them. I go, who loves to fail every single day of their life? Right? And no one puts their hand up. And I say, hang on, you just told me that failure, as long as you learn, is the best way to learn. You learn from your own mistakes. But no one loves to fail. And I think Kiyosaki said it best. He said, people in business need to learn to fail faster. Right? It's not about failing, it's about recovering. And it's about moving on to the next thing, the iterations. And I think that's one of the secrets to success, is being willing to make a mistake every single day, as long as it's not the same one, right?
Yeah, exactly. I actually have a philosophy of, let the market decide. So and again, that requires testing and measuring,
Mm,
and like starting from what is already a known quantity in terms of generally what people respond to well, and that kind of thing.
yeah,
But failing fast, failing quickly, putting a lot out there, seeing which ones get traction,
yeah.
and then doubling down on those, and you can do that like that can accelerate a marketing campaign incredibly.
Well, it's pretty scientific, isn't it? It's just measuring
Yeah, well, yeah, it
stuff.
is,
And
yeah.
yeah, I heard a fact about rockets that launch and go to the moon and have a guidance system in them. The guidance system job is to correct the path of the rocket, but it only kicks in when the rocket is off path. Because when it's on track, it doesn't do anything. But most people don't realize that rocket is only ever on track for 2% of its journey. So 98% of the journey, it's actually out off track and being corrected. And I think in business, people don't like this idea of being off track for 98% of the time. It's
Mm.
terrifying. But the truth is, unless you're off track, you can't correct.
Yeah, and actually, a pilot told me once. He said, "Look, the plane it's a similar thing. The plane is off course most of the time due to wind conditions
Yeah,
and that kind of thing. But overall, if the overall direction is off by like even between 1% and 3%, you can end up in a totally different country."
right. So you've got to have this end point, and you've got to sort of keep sort of correcting for
Mm.
the environment, and that's really what we're talking about today, isn't it? This whole idea of these last 2 years has been quite tumultuous for a lot of people, but the truth is there's been some massive learning experiences, there's been some great opportunities, and even this next wave of what's about to happen in the economy, with the hyperinflation and with the increase in wages and the low um, unemployment numbers, creates new opportunities again for those people that are willing to sort of move forward and jump in on the front foot. So if we're going to look, I'm conscious of time too. We're nearly on the half hour, but let's try and land this plane and talk about what are the key elements. So if we're looking to get outstanding results out of the last 2 years, and people had to walk away with 2 or 3 takeaways from today's call, what would you suggest they are? Maybe we'll start with you, Ryan.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, first thing, like I said, do something differently. If you are expecting the same results
Mm,
and not changing the action, doing something differently and doing something outstanding. Like you can't do the
yeah.
same thing and expect an outstanding result.
Mm-hmm.
And I think on top of that is, yeah, invest in the things, invest in, the marketing, the operations, the mindset, that are going to achieve, and don't just dabble.
Yeah.
Commit to it and go, right, I'm going to see this through until I see that level of success that I'm aiming for.
Yeah, fantastic. So really giving it a red hot go and being prepared to fail and embracing
Mm,
that failure as a learning opportunity, and then just moving back again with that new knowledge. Yeah.
mm,
And what about from your point of view, Damien?
Yeah, look, it's a bumpy road. It has been for the last couple of years, and it will be probably for the next 1 to 2. So it's dynamic, and there's plenty of reason to be reactive, buy into the drama. As I said, just seen the best success come from those business leaders who just refuse to get caught up in that
Mm,
whirlwind, and whilst they can't fix everything all at once, you've got to pick 1 or 2 things and do that well. Let's say it's, what, we really need to get our numbers right. I need to get clear on the numbers and figure out what's actually happening. All right, we'll just stick to that and do that, get that running well, and then move to the next thing, which could be, we need our operational planning to work better.
yeah.
I know things are chaotic, and we've got shortage of staff and people and materials, but we're just going to nail planning, and we're going to focus in on that and do that well.
Yeah.
And that's it's a good way to get out of the whirlwind.
Yeah. Fantastic. Guys, it's been awesome talking to you two today. It's one of my favourite topics is actually understanding how you can use your experiences to grow. And we've really talked about compressing time. We've really talked about zoning in on one area and just working on that one area, learning and improving it. So really appreciate your time. If anyone needs to reach out, obviously your names are on the screen there, Ryan Gray, Damien Lacey. Guys, thanks so much for joining us today.
Wonderful.
Thanks, David.
Thanks, David.
All right.